Yet for some fucking reason, PG 13% is on that team. When does that make Last season, right after the NBA All-Star team was announced, I made a video where I talked about the All-Star voting system being a joke. And it seems like this year, things have only gotten worse. So last night, the NBA All-Star teams were announced, and I have a lot to say. Because I'm not gonna lie, the voting this year was absolutely terrible. Now, I do need to give a little bit of context. So we've known the starters for about a week, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too mad at the starters. In the Eastern Conference, you had Kyrie Irving, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, and Giannis. My only argument was really maybe Jason Tatum should not have made it over Joel Embiid, but at least Joel Embiid made it as a reserve. However, the Western Conference, they completely nailed. They had Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Zion Williamson, and Nikola Jokic. So as far as the starters go, I think they completely nailed it. Now, if you didn't know how these starters are selected, it is by a combination of fan, player, and media voting. Now, last year, my biggest argument was that fan voting was atrocious. It was on NBA Twitter, and that got Andrew Wiggins to be an all-star starter. Granted, some people speculated that BTS had something to do with it, but either way, that was not as bad as what happened this year. But not with the starters, because like I said, they nailed it, and the fans for once actually did pretty good because it wasn't on Twitter. But the all-star reserves, well, that's a different story. Now, about a week ago, I made a video about Joel Embiid, and one of the topics I talked about was the fact that he was not selected to be a starter. And someone in the comment section brought up a point that essentially it doesn't matter if he's a starter, because at the end of the day, he was selected to be an all-star. So when we go back and we look at his resume whenever he retired, we can see that he made the all-star team that year, and he's right. But if you're not a reserve or a starter, you didn't make the team at all, and some people got completely snubbed. Now, the way these starters are selected and the reserves are selected are a completely different process. Starters, like I mentioned, are voted by fans, media, and players. However, the reserves are voted by all 30 coaches. And the coaches this year did an absolutely terrible job. Both sides were pretty bad this year, but I'm going to start with the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference All-Star Reserves goes as follows: Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, Bam Adebayo, Julius Randle, DeMar DeRozan, Jrue Holiday, and Tyrese Halliburton. I'm not going to lie, I can get behind a lot of these names. Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, and Bam Adebayo, I can get behind. Even Tyrese Halliburton, which makes me so happy by the way that he was selected. He fully deserves it. But people like DeMar DeRozan and Jrue Holiday, even Julius Randle, I have a problem with. Now, as far as the three people I disagree with being on this list, the one I could try to justify is Julius Randle. However, because Julius Randle made it, that means Pascal Siakam did not make it. And fun fact, Pascal Siakam is the first player in NBA history to average 25, 8, and 6 and not make the All-Star team. I've been saying this for the longest time, but I think Pascal Siakam is so damn underrated, and no one really talks about how good he is. Look, I know the Raptors are not doing well right now. I understand that, but are you really not going to appreciate Pascal Siakam? But even that's not even as bad as the guards. Listen, if they chose DeMar DeRozan last year, I would not have been mad at this pick, but we are 1 year later, and DeMar is nothing like he was last year. Also, because DeMar DeRozan made it, that meant James Harden did not make it. Now listen, I've been very critical about James Harden, and sometimes he's not exactly my favorite player, but even I can admit a player averaging 21, 11, and 6 on the third best team in the Eastern Conference not making the All-Star team is crazy, especially over DeMar DeRozan and Jrue Holiday. Listen, I love Jrue Holiday, but he's not an All-Star. I love DeMar DeRozan, but I'm sorry, I don't think he should be an All-Star over James Harden. And fine, if you don't want to go with James Harden because you don't like him, what about Jimmy Butler? Like, the fact that none of these guys made it and they got Jrue Holiday and DeMar DeRozan is sickening to me. And look, I'm not the biggest Knicks fan in the world, but even Jalen Brunson had a really good year. But to be honest, I didn't think they were going to pick Jalen Brunson. I just didn't think he was a big enough name that the coaches were going to select. But if I'm being honest, the Eastern Conference is not as bad as the West. Overall, I would rank the Eastern Conference about a 5 out of 10. I think the fact that they completely missed out on James Harden and Pascal Siakam is sickening. But let's move on, because I have a lot more to say about the West. The Western Conference reserves goes as follows: Ja Morant, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Damian Lillard, Jaren Jackson Jr., Domantas Sabonis, Davis, Lauri Markkanen, and Paul George. Now let's address who I think should be staying on the reserves. Obviously, Ja Morant and Shea, I completely agree with. Damian Lillard, I 100% agree with. This man is averaging like 30 points per game. And you know what? Let's stick with Lauri Markkanen. This man has been having an amazing season. He fully deserves it. But everyone else, yeah, they're on trial. First of all, is that Jaren Jackson Jr.? Are you fucking kidding me? No. Like, are you kidding me? Listen, there's no secret that Jaren Jackson Jr. is more than likely going to win Defensive Player of the Year, and rightfully so. He's having a good defensive season. However, a DPOY does not translate to an All-Star, and the only reason why Jaren is going to win Defensive Player of the Year is the fact he's averaging over 3 blocks per game. But as far as rebounding goes, this guy is a joke. He's averaging 16 and 6. I love Jaren Jackson Jr. That is my guy, but I am sorry, he is not an All-Star, especially over the guys we're gonna talk about in a little bit. Sabonis is one of those players that's having a good year, don't get me wrong. I think 18 and 12 is very impressive, but again, the people he made it over is completely ridiculous and makes no sense. And Paul George, no. In what world does PG 13% make it? I'm gonna start with the forwards because I felt like there were so many options you could have gone with. Listen, I'm a diehard Suns fan and I do not like the Lakers, but Anthony Davis should have made it. Oh, but Spex, Anthony Davis got injured for multiple games. He basically missed like half the year, so why should he make it? And you know what? That is a very good question. Why should he make it when he's been injured? Anthony Davis this season has played 28 games, and Jaren Jackson Jr. has played 35, which is about a 7-game difference. But if you want something that's even more similar, Zion has played 29 games. Jaren Jackson Jr. obviously a reserve, and Zion was a starter. And I'm sorry, but there is no world where Anthony Davis is not better than Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't care if Anthony Davis was born with glass bones and paper skin and every morning he breaks his legs and every afternoon he breaks his arms. When Anthony Davis is healthy in every single way, shape, and form, he is a better player than Jaren Jackson Jr. And he is definitely a better player than Domantas Sabonis. But you know what I've come to realize? The Western Conference has been kind of messed up when it comes to forwards. So maybe there weren't that many options, okay? You know, I can understand that. But I need to remind you that the All-Star team has a thing called a wild card. Now, I'm not sure who the wild card was, but I have a feeling it was either Domantas Sabonis or Jaren Jackson Jr. And if it was the wild card, then that means it could have been any position, at least last time I checked. So tell me why Devin Booker did not make the All-Star team. Now listen, some of you are probably going to say the following. Either A, Spex, you're just a Suns fan and you don't know what you're talking about. Or B, you're going to say Devin Booker was injured for half the season, which you know what, that would be fair on most occasions. Because again, Zion Williamson played 29 games this season. And guess how many games Devin Booker's played this year? Yup, 29 games. And you cannot tell me Booker does not have the stats to be an All-Star because you'd be lying. But you know what? Fine. Let's say injuries play some kind of factor. Let's talk about De'Aaron Fox, who has not been injured. How is De'Aaron Fox not an All-Star? In what world is 24 and 6 on one of the best teams in the Western Conference not an All-Star over Paul George? In what world does De'Aaron Fox get snubbed because of that reason? Would someone love to give me an actual explanation? I would love to know. Because if this was like 4 years ago, I would understand. It's not like the Kings are good and he doesn't have the stats. He's the best player on that team. Yet for some fucking reason, PG 13% is on that team. When does that make sense? And oh my god, I haven't even talked about Anthony Edwards. Man, this shit is ridiculous. You know what? At this point, I'm not even surprised. Literally a year ago, I made the exact same video, and that shit aged like fine wine, and I mean fine wine. I'm talking like that 1990 Domaine de la Romane Cati wine, whatever the fuck it's called. Honestly, I don't even know what to say at this point because I can't blame the media and I can't blame fans. At this point, I don't even know what to say anymore. If you want to see a video about someone that was snubbed from the All-Star game, check out this Kings video where I talked about De'Aaron Fox and his impact. Leave a like, subscribe, and don't listen to casuals. Except that would not be the end of the video. I don't know how to thank you guys enough. Like, honestly, I don't know what to say at this point. For those of you that have not looked at the channel, as you can see, we have finally surpassed 10,000 subscribers. This has been one of those milestones that I've been working on for the past 2 years, and this is something at some point I didn't know if I was going to even do, but luckily we've done just that. I could make a whole like 10-minute video thanking every single person in my life for what they've done for me and how I've gotten to this point. But all I want to say is a big shout out to y'all, the people that have been supporting me for the last 2 to 3 years. course. Shout out to a bunch of my content creator friends that are in this niche, people that I've looked up to at some point and they've befriended me or followed me back on Twitter. It's the little things like that that I very much appreciate. And finally, I want to thank my best friend Xavier, who is also my creative director slash thumbnail designer. He's been working with me for like the past 6 months, and it's definitely safe to say the channel has grown also because of him. Anyways, that's really all I want to say, and just know that the next video I'm uploading after this is going to be the NBA iceberg video, the second version. It's like 40 minutes long. I've been working on this for like the past month. Don't hold me to this, but I believe it's gonna go up on Monday, so make sure y'all are subscribed for that. But anyways, thank you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Leave a like, subscribe, and don't listen to casuals.